All right, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Ultimate Spider-Man Comic Book Flashback. Today we are looking at issue number 26. This issue's title is Circles, and so we have the Spider-Man going up against the Green Goblin, and we have just a huge story going on. We saw that Mary Jane was pretty much just flung right off the bridge here, and we're wondering, is she still alive? And so we see previously an Ultimate Spider-Man, Nick Fury, commander of a covert government agency known as SHIELD, approaches Peter at school and tells him the real story of Norman Osborn in Oz. Norman's drug was a failed super soldier serum that Fury rejected, and Norman has turned himself insane with repeated use of it. Fury believes he is going to blackmail Peter into killing him. Though Peter wants nothing to do with it, Fury is proven right. The Green Goblin kidnaps MJ and brings her to the site of their very first battle, the Queensboro Bridge, in a twisted attempt to gain Peter's allegiance. Spider-Man confronts the Green Goblin only to have him throw a helpless MJ right off the bridge. Spidey leaps after her, catching her limp body and landing on the bridge walkway. MJ doesn't wake up. And so, will she wake up? That's the big concern we have in this issue. And we see here that this is brought to you by Brian Michael Bendis, who wrote this issue. We have Mark Bagley on the penciling, Art Thibert on the inking. We have Chris Elapoulos on the lettering page, C.B. Cebulski, associate editor, Brian Smith, associate editor, Ralph Macchio, editor, Joe Quesada, editor-in-chief, and Bill Jamos, president and inspiration. And now let's get into this issue, y'all. And so we see here that Nick Fury is in communication right now with this airplane that is one eagle eye over. Basically, they're at the Quartermain. They're basically tracking down the Green Goblin. The Green Goblin is a big threat. They're at the Queensboro Bridge, and just like what I read, basically this was where Spider-Man and the Green Goblin fought for the first time. And Green Goblin's trying to prove a point here, and we see that as Nick Fury is in communication with these helicopters that are watching the Green Goblin and Spider-Man battle up on top of this bridge, Nick Fury is going to basically say, take a shot at the Green Goblin. They start firing right at him. And we see here the reason why they start firing at the Green Goblin is because he threw Mary Jane Watson right off the bridge, the Queensboro Bridge. So now we see, we're in the present here, we see that Spider-Man's trying to wake her up. He says, Mary, I caught you, I got you, Mary. Finally, Mary Jane wakes up, thank God. We thought that she had been killed here. And so he's like, oh, thank God. Are you okay? Are you hurt? And she's like, what's going on? He said, where am I? He said, you fainted. Then all of a sudden we see a humongous explosion here. She's like, what is that? And we know that the Green Goblin's dealing with S.H.I.E.L.D. right now. So we see that this taxi guy comes up and says, man, Spider, yo, you rock. And Spider-Man's like, hey, take her, please. Just take her. Get her out of sight. He said, you got it, dude. You're the man. So we see that MJ is put into the taxi. The taxi goes off. And now Spider-Man has to breathe a big sigh of relief here because he got so freaking lucky. He really, really thought that he lost MJ, the girl that he loves. And so we see that the Green Goblin continues to fight the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents here in these two helicopters. And he's like, Fury, come face me. And he has these powers here, like we've seen in the past issues, where he can basically cause fire to come out from his hands, like fireballs. And they're hitting and colliding with these helicopters here. And he calls them plasma fields. And he said, I didn't think they were ready for combat yet. And then Spider-Man says, that's the least of your problems. Spider-Man comes and collides with the Green Goblin with a big smack to the face here. I mean, he is furious here with the Green Goblin. And then the guy in the helicopter says, "Hold your fire, all personnel, hold your fire until I give the word." Green Goblin says, "How dare you, Parker? I will have your head. I will eat your..." All of a sudden, he says, "Parker." And then one big kick to the face. Spider-Man has had enough. And I mean, he starts to beat the ever-loving crap out of this Green Goblin guy. I mean, one punch after the next. Nick Fury says, "Quartermain, what's going on?" The guy says, "He's beating the crap out of him, sir." He said, "Who?" "Spider-Man." And so Nick Fury hears, "Spider-Man's beating the living crap out of him." I mean, he definitely does, as we see. The Green Goblin actually has orange blood, which is pretty interesting. Then all of a sudden, the Green Goblin grabs the throat of Spider-Man here, and he says, "There is more to me, boy, than man has the imagination to dream of." And Spider-Man's starting to choke. He throws him off of the bridge. We then see that the helicopters are going to start firing right back on the Green Goblin. It seems that these bullets just don't do anything to the Green Goblin. The Green Goblin then jumps off the bridge here. Spider-Man saves his own self here by having a thin strand of webbing here connect to the wall of this bridge. And I mean, he almost, dies here, but he's able to save himself, smacks himself straight into the wall. He's feeling pretty hurt, but he knows he needs to go after the Green Goblin because now he knows that he's headed back to his penthouse, Norman Osborn's penthouse, and he's going to go after Harry now. And so we see Spider-Man is going to follow the Green Goblin back into his penthouse. The Green Goblin is in desperate need. He needs to get the Oz drug and inject himself with it maybe one or two more times so that he can get more power. And of course, he has multiple dosages of the Oz drug here. And we see that before he even injects himself with this drug, Harry Osborn shows up on the scene. And he's like, "Dad, what have you done to my father?" He doesn't realize that this is actually Norman Osborn. And then he said, "Cellar door." We see that then Harry Osborn faints here, and he injects himself with the Oz drug, and he says, "It worked. Yes, it worked." And he gains more power here. Then he grabs another sample of the drug, injects his neck with it, and he screams out in pain, but now he is super jacked here as we see the Green Goblin is more powerful than ever before now. And so how in the world is Spider-Man going to be able to fight the Green Goblin here? And we see that the Green Goblin and Spider-Man are going to go for an epic battle here. One epic battle. Spider-Man lands in two big punches right from the get-go here. And he says, "To tell you the truth, Norm, I kind of like you more like this. At least I don't have to listen to your arrogant ram, Huck." And then all of a sudden, we see that he grabs the leg of Spider-Man, slings him. He crashes and collides right into that aquarium tank with all the sharks. And I mean, at that point, Spider-Man's mask is completely ripped apart where it shows Spider-Man's face. So now Harry Osborn knows who Spider-Man is. So there's one more person that knows the identity of Spider-Man. And we see here that Green Goblin is choking the life out of Spider-Man and Harry Osborn is watching. And so how is this going to conclude here? Is it going to conclude? We're going to have to find all this out as we look at issue number 27 coming up next. I hope to see you there. Go ahead, give this video a like, comment down below what you liked about this video, subscribe if you have not, and I will see y'all in the next one.